to another Color Your World technique class. This is the Watercolor Poppies class, where I'm going to teach you how to make these two things using watercolor paper, an aqua painter, and ink refills. So let's talk about the supplies that you'll need for these projects. So you have your card and your bag that we're going to make. In your kit, or outside of your kit, you'll also need an aqua painter that is filled with water, and you'll need some ink refills. These are the colors that I used. I used Melon Mambo, Pool Party, Poppy Parade, Old Olive, Daffodil Delight, and Blackberry Bliss. Okay, so those are the colors of ink refill that you will need. I also have this adorable little tray that I found at the Dollar Tree. It comes in a pack of 6 of these trays in the art section. And so I thought I'd give this a try today. I've never used one, and hopefully I won't get a big mess using this. The other thing that you'll definitely want is probably some paper towels in case things get a little messy. Okay, so I'm just gonna tear some off and set it to the side. The other thing that you'll probably want is a Wink of Stella, and you will need a Stays On Black ink. So get your Stays On Black ink because we're going to use water, and this will not run when it interacts with water. Okay, the second thing that you're going to need is the Peaceful Moments stamp set and the Painted Poppies stamp set and the Peaceful Moment dies. So the dies that come with this set. So they look like this, because you will need to cut out your flowers and leaves once you've done watercolor. So these are the 3 things that you'll need as well. So these ones are called Poppy Moments dies, Peaceful Moment stamp set, and Painted Poppy stamp set. Okay, you should have received a package in the mail from me that has a card and a clear envelope like this. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the card, and we will make the purse second. In the card, and I'm going to keep my little example here in the corner so we can see it. In your packet, you will have a Whisper White card base, which you can set aside because we don't want to get it too messy. And then this is just a backing piece of basic black. This basic black measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. So it's almost the size of the base. You also have a piece of the largest piece of watercolor paper, this Fluid 100 watercolor paper. This one was cut down to 4 by 5 1/4, and this is going to be the background piece that we're going to do the watercolor wash with Pool Party. So we need that one. You also have some pieces for leaves and some pieces for flowers to color. And then I've already cut the little decorative piece, the little label that we're going to stamp happy birthday on, and the outline images of the flowers. So I've gone ahead and already done these pieces for you. So all you get to worry about is the watercoloring. And I just realized I did not cut enough of these, so I'll have to cut more of those. That's why, that's a good thing. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, let's go ahead and do the, let's focus on the background. Let's do the background watercolor wash. Now, the thing about watercolor is it's all about water and the amount of ink you have. So I have Pool Party, that's going to be our background wash. And so I'm just going to put a couple drops of Pool Party ink in my little tray. Now, the darker the color means I use less water, and the more water I use means the lighter the color. So I'm going to go ahead and give my paper just kind of a pre-wash, if you will, just getting it all wet. I've just squished my aqua painter and got it all wet. Now I'm going to pick up the color and spread it across my page. Now, you can see there in the middle where I started is the darkest, because that's where I had the most ink on my brush. And I just truly want it to look like a wash. So I'm going to get my paper towel and dab off the extra. And I'm just going to clean my brush on the paper towel. Okay, so there is my watercolor wash. Now, if you feel like you want more color, you can keep going. You have plenty of ink, you can just keep adding. And the less amount of water you use, the darker it will be. So remember that. Less water equals darker, more water equals lighter. And you can always, if you feel like something is too dark, you can always add water and dab off and it will get lighter. So if I wanted to add water to this and then I went and got my paper towel and dabbed, it will lighten it up. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I'm going to speed dry with my heat tool. Okay, so now that that's dry, we'll set that aside. We are all done with it. Now we're going to go ahead and do our flowers. So we have 3 different colored flowers. We have a Daffodil Delight flower, a Poppy Parade flower, and a Melon Mambo flower. So we will put some color in each of our little trays here. If you don't have a tray, what I was using before is either a glass media mat or you can use a clear block and just put the ink drops on your clear block. Whatever you have will work. My biggest trick is now going to be remembering which container has what color. That's going to be the true challenge. Okay, so I've got Daffodil Delight, Poppy Parade, and Melon Mambo. I'm going to basically separate this into 3 sections. So this one will do a Melon Mambo flower, and basically what we're going to do is we are just going to kind of wash this. There's no stamp to kind of tell us what we want, and so what I'm going to do is try to do darkest in the middle and kind of work my way out into the color. You can see the water is just pulling out the color, so that's kind of the look I'm going for. Again, there's no rhyme or wrong. Like you can't do it wrong is basically what I'm saying, because you're just going to cut this out of a die. There's no stamp set to keep in the lines or anything like that. So you're just going to get the color on your paper. And like I said, I want to focus more on getting the lighter color on the outside, darker color on the inside. So this is really just doing this kind of giant blob of color. And apparently I did Poppy Parade instead of Melon Mambo, so that was our first color. Okay, let's see. I think this one's Daffodil Delight. Now I need a lot smaller flower for Daffodil Delight, so I don't need to go all crazy. And now the less amount of water you add, the darker the image will be. And then the more water you add, the lighter it'll be. So I'm just adding, you can see how dark the color's getting. So I'm just kind of spreading it around. And that's good there. And then I have my Melon Mambo at the end. I'm just making sure my brush is cleaned out. Gonna get my Melon Mambo. Boop. And I just squeeze my brush and add water to spread it out. Now you could also pretend this was a poppy and add some lines of your own in darker ink, like so. Okay, so that's truly all there is to this, to these flowers. We'll set these aside here in a minute and we'll dry them when we get our leaves done. So those will be our 3 flowers eventually. Now we have our leaves. Okay, so we need quite a few leaves. So basically what we're gonna do is just do a kind of green wash, and we're gonna just kind of watercolor these papers, and then we'll cut out the leaves. And I just really, if you can see these leaves, there's really not, like, it's just color on the watercolor paper and then cut out. So no real Ooh, that's really dark. Use lots of water on these ones if you don't want it to be that dark of a green. So I'm just spreading it around. I'm also thinking and playing with the idea of adding yellow to the leaves. So pulling in some yellow and getting some different shades of green. We'll see how that looks. That'll be cool. Okay, so again, I'm just doing a wash. And you can see where I first added the color, there wasn't a lot of water. And so it got very dark in those spots. I really like the way this yellow is looking, so I think I want to add some into this green here. Kind of change the color of it a little bit. Very cool. Okay, so now what we'll do is we will dry all of these pieces with the heat tool, and then we'll cut them all in the Big Shot. Now, one thing I want to show you real quickly, like I mentioned before, if you want your color to get lighter, you can add water. But one of the other things you can do to add texture is you can do some splatters of water on your dried watercolor, and then you can dab it with a paper towel and it will actually lift the color and make little spots. So if you don't want your flowers to be a solid color, you can add texture that way. So if I just splatter some water across my flowers, and then I go over it with a paper towel and blot off. See how it lightens up the images and adds texture? So you could do something like that. I also got some over here in my green, so I'll just blot those off. Okay, so now it's time to do some die cutting. We have already got all of our pieces, so we'll go ahead and die cut these. We're gonna move this paint out of the way because we do not want to make a mess, and you guys know I'm famous for messes. Okay, so get your Big Shot. Okay, so we have our Peaceful Moment dies that we are going to cut out our flowers in. So you'll just lay your images. Oh, we want the large one, sorry. We don't want the decorative piece. We want the outside image. So just the outline, and just the outline. And then we're going to cut out some leaves. So we have a leaf here. We have another little leaf here. Okay, so we'll cut those out. All right, so we have another flower to cut out, our poppy flower. Like so. And we have more leaves to cut out, so we'll cut out some more leaves. Let's go ahead and cut out these two leaves. And like I mentioned before, I forgot one of the centers of the flower, so I just need to get a small piece of basic black and do another one of these eyeball amoeba looking things. Alrighty, now it's time to assemble our card. All our pieces and parts, we just have to stamp our sentiment at the end. So what we're gonna do here is we are gonna glue our pieces together, and we're gonna get our basic black piece onto our card base. Okay, and then we have our watercolor wash. Just a nice background wash. We're out of snail. Onto the, oops, a little bit crooked. You guys always struggle with this. This is like my hardest part, is getting it down straight. Okay, So there's that. Now let's go ahead and put our flowers together, and then we can start placing them on the card. So we have these white outline pieces, and these are going, you just find that how they line up correctly. So just like so, and then you're going to glue it on. Now, isn't that going to be the most beautiful flower? So take your liquid glue. You can also take your craft sheet if you want to, and a sponge. And you can sponge the adhesive onto these little narrow pieces, and it will help not make such a mess, and then you won't get it everywhere. Okay, so there's one, and here's another one. Line that up. Okay, and one final one. Put that here. All right, so now we've got our 3 flowers assembled, and we've got our grains, so now we can put them together. And you can take a baby wipe and just clean the glue right off your silicone mat. Isn't that cool? Look at that. So neat. Okay. All right, so now we're going to assemble our cards, and we're going to figure out where we want everything to be. So I have my painted poppy one up here, or my poppy parade, I should say. And I can have a little leaf going this way. So I think I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of this and glue it down. I like to just glue my dimensionals right over the leaves to hold them in place. You can do whatever method works for you the best. Okay. So we're just going to, I'm just going to place this up high at the top. And then we have our Melon Mambo flower. And it looks like I just glued that one down directly, so we'll do that. And I have a leaf going down here and a leaf kind of going up in the middle here. We'll go ahead and glue this one down. Again, the placement is completely up to you. This is the placement that I figured out, but it doesn't mean it has to be the placement that you do. Okay, so I'm going to put glue on this. I'm going to put my leaf behind it, like so, and I'm going to glue it down to the side here. Like so. Okay, and then I'm going to put this flower here behind my yellow flower, like so, and I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of it. And then we're going to put this in the center of those 2 flowers. Okay, so we've got that. Now we've got to do our centers of our flowers. I'm trying to figure out which side is the side that's supposed to be in the back. Just putting these little pretty flower centers on. Looks like I lost my little middle one. Oh, there it is, hiding. So these little half amiibo things, looking things, go in the middle, or go in these smaller flowers right here in the middle, like so. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break from gluing for a moment and stamp that sentiment, happy birthday. And this is again in the Peaceful Moments stamp set. And we'll just stamp that in Stays On black ink. like so. And then we'll take some glue and glue this little decorative label, which I have cut out of the poppy dies. I'm going to glue this to the bottom of our label. I'm going to put the long side going out this way because I want it to be hidden underneath the flower. So I'm just going to glue this down, but I'm going to slide it in underneath the flower, like so. And there you have it. Isn't that so pretty? What a stunner. I love it. Such a pretty card. So there you go. What a fun birthday card. Okay, so that is one really super easy way to do the watercolor with the ink refills. Now what we're gonna do is pretty much create our own designer series paper to make this beautiful purse. It's so easy, it comes together so quick. So what you need, I gave you 2 pieces of the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. Leave all the other little tiny pieces inside your bag just so that you don't lose them. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna lay a piece of paper towel just below, just in case anything falls off. But we're going to stamp our images and then we're going to watercolor them. So we're gonna be making designer series paper. So we have our big flower, our little flower, and we have some leaves. So we have 2 different size leaves. We have this longer leaf and we have this smaller leaf that I think I can fit on this narrow one here. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stamp a design of whatever you want. It can be random, it can be in a pattern, whatever it is that's your style that you like. But you're going to take your stamp and you're gonna take your StazOn and you're just going to stamp the flowers across the paper. Okay. So let's do some of the larger flower. And again, it can be as many flowers or as little flowers as you want. It's your design. Okay. Mine's going to have a lot of flowers because I like flowers. Lots and lots of flowers. Then you're going to take your leaves. Actually, I'm going to take the bigger one to see how many I can fit in the bigger spaces. You're going to take your leaves and scatter them around your designer series paper. Okay, and then I'm going to take my smaller one and fill in the gaps. So we'll do one right here. It touched both. That's perfect. All right, I think I'm done. So then once you've gotten that, now what you're going to do is take your palette of colors and your aqua painter. Now mine needs a refill. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to color, oh, my brush still had, make sure you clean your brushes out, you guys, and don't have extra color. But I'm going to add water in between the flowers where my blue is going to be. So I want to show you the purse again. So right now what I'm doing is I'm going to be coloring the outside, the outline in between the flowers, okay? Not the flowers themselves yet. So I'm just getting the paper wet. I'm going to take the blue, and if I feel like it's going to be too watery or too dark, just add more water. And if it gets into the lines of the images, that's okay, because you're going to go back through later and color, and you won't be able to tell. Promise. You don't believe me, so you might have to watch me work the magic first, and then you can follow. So I'm just kind of filling in between the images. Again, you can see how quickly and how messy I'm doing it. It does not need to be perfect. Promise. And this is the best way I found it. What I realized is when I had colored my flowers and leaves first, and then I did this, I was pulling color from the flowers into my blue, and I didn't want that. So I believe that by doing this first, it should prevent that. Okay, so we've got this kind of background. I need a little bit more blue. Just about 3 drops will do. 3 drops at a time should be plenty. Again, the more color, the darker it is. And again, I just want it to be a little bit darker of a blue. Now I'm going to move on to this piece because you need 2 pieces of this watercolor paper to spread, to get the purse. You need 2 pieces. So we're going to do the exact same thing over here. And it's okay if they don't exactly match because you, when you put your purse together, will not be able to tell. It's just going to be this nice combination of the 2 papers together. Okay, so we've now filled in the 2 images. So now I'm going to clean my brush really, really well. And I'm going to start bringing in the green. Now I have to remember which one of these is green. I think it's this one. Yep, this is our green. And so what I'm going to do is now paint my leaves. And, oh, see, we have to be really careful because that's going to start to bleed. Now, I kind of like that look, but if you really don't like that look, then I suggest you dry your paper first. And I'm using a lot less water. I'm not squeezing my brush when I'm adding this. I'm literally just painting the leaves. Now this first leaf is very dark, so I'll probably go back over it once it's dry and remove and pick up some of that green. So be very careful. Yep, see, I did it again. I dipped too far into the tray of ink and got a very dark green. I'm kind of almost pushing it up the tray so I can get lighter amounts of ink. But again, we can fix those dark ones. We can go back and you can see how the blue that got into the leaves, oops, that's really dark, how the blue that got into the leaves doesn't even matter because our green covers it. Ooh, that's really dark. Still really dark. We'll go back and fix that. It's really hard on those thin ones to stay inside the lines. Okay, so we're gonna go back over and get this super wet and dab off the dark color. See how it lightens up? And every time we do that, it will lighten up more. Okay, for our last and final color, now we're going to do our flowers, and that is going to be using the Blackberry Bliss ink refill. So we're going to put some Blackberry Bliss. Now, kind of like the old olive, the more ink you get, the darker the flower will be. And as we do this, we want to get the flower pre-wet. And I would say when you're doing the dark, and I'm just going to kind of put off a lot of the color, but I started in the center with the dark part and let it flow out because I did not want, oh, see, that was way too dark. Add lots of water and no more ink. Lots of water and no more ink. I'm actually going to use it to put color on others. You can always dab off too. Look at that. No harm, no foul. And we can just continue to paint. And again, I'm not doing my best to stay in the lines because that's not what watercolor's about, really. So again, I'm just adding. Now, the nice part is that if there's a place where you really hate what you did and it's not in the center, then you can actually leave it out of your purse, because we're going to cut the purse dies right out of this paper. And so you can leave it out strategically. So again, we're just painting these poppies with Blackberry Bliss. Okay, so these ones are done, and we'll move on to our next ones, and we'll do that again. Okay, and there is our finished product. It may not look like anything now, but once we put it together as a purse, it will be absolutely gorgeous. Now I'm just going to fill in some of these white areas with some more blue. Okay, and then we'll dry these. Okay, so once your paper has dried completely, you can use a heat tool to dry it completely, or you can let it sit and dry. You will take your best dressed dies. So these are the all dressed up dies, and you'll cut out 2 of the purse framelets. You'll cut out 2 pieces from those 2 pieces of designer series paper. Now you have the beginnings of a beautiful purse. So next step is to take your bone folder, and there are score lines. It's hard to kind of see, especially with the watercolor paper, but there are score lines, and you're going to fold along all those score lines to kind of get your purse ready. And it's kind of tough to differentiate between the score line and the perforated line, but just do your best. And the score line that's here on the side of the purse, you actually want to fold out, because our purse is going to go out, not in. So if the sides were going to go in, then we would have folded it the opposite direction, but we want it to go out, so we'll just fold down the middle here. And there is a V down at the bottom, so you just need to pinch the V and fold this little flap down. There is a score line there as well. There's also a score line here on the side tab. And one down here at the bottom flap. So you're going to do that on the other one as well. Okay, now that we have all of our score lines folded, we can take our tear and tape and we can start to assemble the purse. So taking your score tape or your tear and tape, and I recommend tear and tape or liquid glue for this because you want your purse to stay together. So just putting a strip of that tear and tape on that little side tab there, peel off the backing, and now you're going to take your other piece and you're going to match up this side, this top part. This is the top part, this is the bottom part. So you're going to match up the sides. So see how the two tops are like so? You're just going to line them up. Line the top and the bottom. And just seal that. Then we're going to put tear and tape along this bottom, or the other side, this other side strip here. Oops. There. Make sure that's on there really good. Peel back. Tuck any extra adhesive that got off the edges. You can always roll that back up on itself. And this you kind of have, you can't lay flat to do. You have to have it up. And you're just going to line up the top and the bottom and seal. Now for the bottom flap, you're going to push in your two sides. You're going to pick what's your front, what's the front, and what's the back. I'm going to have this is my front, this is my back. So the back side is going to fold in. The front side is going to be the last to fold in. So I'm going to put adhesive on the outside of the back flap. So the top of the back flap like this. And on the inside of the top flap, because this one, we want the adhesive hidden inside. So first this one, we pull the backing off and pull the backing off this one. So fold in the back that has the adhesive on top, fold over the front that has the adhesive on the bottom, glue that down. You can also take your bone folder and push down. Okay, now you should have all those little pieces that are in your bag. The next step that we're going to do is we are going to take this little clasp that I have cut out. Now this is out of the Painted Poppies dies, and it's just the little label that we used on the card. So remember this label. So I just took it and I scored it in the middle at 2 spots, 1/4 of an inch apart, so that now I have what it will be our clasp. So you'll want to put some adhesive on the back side. It doesn't matter which one, they're both the same. And you're going to glue that to the back of the purse, and then you're going to put it in the center area here, like so. You want it to line up with the score line at the top. So the very first score line is up at the top of the purse. Can you see that? Very first score line. Okay, so once that's glued on, you're going to take the little Velcro dot that I gave you, and you're going to peel off one side. It doesn't matter which one, just peel off one side. There's a little clear plastic cover on it. You're going to put that glue dot on the inside clasp of the purse, and you're going to peel the plastic backing off the back side. Like so. And then you're going to fold it over and glue it down. And just hold it there and pinch it there for a minute, just to make sure that that adhesive from the Velcro dot sticks, and then you can separate it and open it up and the Velcro dots stay. Okay, so there's the clasp. Now we have a little button, a little decorative button. It doesn't do anything, but it's just there for decoration. We're going to put a little bit of glue on the back side and glue it down to the center of our clasp. Now we're going to take the purse handles. There's 2 handles. I use my bone folder to kind of give it a curl. This is going to help when you're trying to make it bend. That way it doesn't fold and do any kind of crease. You're going to weave your little buckles through the 2 ends of the handles. And then you're going to want to use liquid glue or tear and tape to hold this down. I'm going to use liquid glue, and I want to glue my buckle down because I don't want it to go anywhere. I don't want it to slide. So I'm actually going to put glue over the buckle portion and just put my handle down low enough so that it glues down. So I'm going to glue this right here on the edge. I do not want my buckle to go past the edge because it's going to hit the clasp when the clasp opens. So I just have it just kind of right up to that edge of the purse there. And I'm just gluing it down. Just give it a second, hold it, because because now we're going to ask this paper to bend in an unnatural way. So you can see it's flat here. I'm just bending it like this. So when we ask paper to do that, we need a really strong adhesive to hold it. Paper doesn't naturally like to do that. Oops, see? Even that's trying to come off. So you just gotta be patient with it and give it a few minutes and hold it down. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm going to get my next handle, do a little curl there in the middle, put my clasps on, my buckles, not clasps, weave those through. Oh boy, there we go. And then again with the Tombow glue. Okay, and so these ones are going to go on the back at the exact same way that we did the front. So I'm actually going to unbuckle the clasp so that I have a little bit more space to work with. So I'm going to put the front one here, or the side one here. Just going to glue that to the edge. And you're going to twist and glue this one to the edge. So just holding it there. And voila, we have an adorable purse. Look at that watercolor purse. How fun is that? I hope you enjoyed these projects. I hope you feel a little bit more confident and can have some fun with re-inkers and aqua painters. And thank you so much for joining me for another month of Color Your World technique class. All right, bye-bye.